everybody. Dan Illman, Mike here, the DRF race of the day for Saturday, August the 26th, race number 12 at Saratoga. It's the Midsummer Derby, the Grade 1, $1.25 million Travers Stakes. 3-year-olds going 1.25 miles. To celebrate the Travers, DRF is giving away 10 of these sporty daily racing form caps, as well as a grand prize. And this is a good one. It is a DRF signed cover, signed by none other than Belmont Stakes winning trainer Jenna Antonucci. All you have to do to win one of the 10 caps and the signed cover is please comment and subscribe to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Here's the field for the Travers Stakes. Please scan or click the QR code for Race of the Day access on mobile, which includes free Formulator Pass performances. We have 3 Triple Crown single race winners in here. None of them is the favorite. Forte 7-5.
Yeah, Forte unfortunately didn't get to run in either the Derby or the Preakness. Did show up at the Belmont Stakes. He didn't win the Belmont. He ran fine in there. I guess maybe he, sort of retook his position at the top of this crop then when he won the Jim Dandy prepping for this. Maybe he's the horse to beat. I thought you could make cases for all 7 of these horses. This is a really good race.
I'm going to disagree with this time form US pace projector. I do know that the number 7 Scotland is quick out of the gate, and I do know he was on the pace when he won the restricted Curlin Stakes earlier this meet, but Bob Baffert doesn't ship to rate, and National Treasure's best game is when he's on the lead, as he was in the Preakness. He's 8-1 on the morning line, and I think he's going.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, listen, Scotland can certainly come out of there running from the outside post if National Treasure wants to lead. National Treasure will have the lead, and I've never seen a Baffert horse rate in a big race anyway. I think the 5 goes to the front. Scotland will be up close, but I don't think he can beat the 5 to the lead.
If this pace is hot, note the LP designation flag over the number 4 Chiclet. The number 4, of course, is Kentucky Derby winner Mage. He is a late runner that would benefit from some pace. Flavien Prat picks up the mount. Luis Saez was injured at Saratoga earlier in the week. Let's start things off by talking about Jim Dandy winner Forte, last year's 2-year-old champion. Todd Pletcher put blinkers on Forte after he was beaten by Arcangelo in the Belmont coming off of a long layoff. Forte was in the pocket in behind horses. He comes out into the stretch over the sweat track, and he gamely grinds down Saudi Crown in the shadow of the wire.
Yeah, putting blinkers on isn't always a great sign for a horse of Forte's quality, Dan. They put it on for the Jim Dandy. I got to say, I think it had the desired effect. I mean, this horse was handy right from the start of this race. He broke like a rocket. He sat in the pocket well in hand. I liked the, the ride there. It was a little controversial, I guess. Irad just sort of forced his way off the inside and got the job done. To me, maybe the best race this horse has ever run. I think you and I both sort of agreed heading into the Jim Dandy that he was still at the top of the 3-year-old division. I think he kind of cemented his place up there in that victory we just watched.
And even though he didn't win one of the Triple Crown races, I think he's a deserving favorite in here, coming off that 105 Beyer performance. He breaks from the inside under Arad Ortiz and has the tactical speed to be placed anywhere his rider wants. The 2 is Arcangelo, winner of the Belmont, and he beat 3 of these rivals in the Belmont, and he looked pretty good doing it. He was stepping up in class off a win in his first start against winners, the Peter Pan. He got a great ride from Javier Castellano, sneaking through on the inside, passing a tired National Treasure at the 3/16ths, and going on his way to hold Forte at bay.
He did run really well in here. Did the trip kind of worked out for him, Dan? There were other horses in here, notably Forte and Tapit Trice, and the co-4th place finishers there, who all sort of got stuck outside and maybe making early moves into the race. I don't think it should go unnoticed, though, that this horse kept right up close. That pace was pretty fast early. This horse kept right up close throughout, got through on the inside, stayed very strongly. He was much the best in that race. And listen, it's worth pointing out, too, he's wicked bred for that 1.5-mile distance, so maybe that helped. But this horse is good, man. He's lightly raced. He could take another step forward in here, and if he does, he's going to be a handful.
As Sire Arrogate, of course, won the Travers. Jenna Antonucci trains. Castellano takes the mount. Speaking of blinkers on, it worked for Forte in the Jim Dandy. Pletcher is hoping it's going to work for the 3 Tapit Trice, and he needs a little bit of help because this horse doesn't break very well from the gate, and then he just seems to run in spots in his races. You got to scrub on him all the way around. So Todd's hoping the blinkers had the desired effect of maybe getting him out of the gate a little bit better and maybe getting him to focus a little bit better. I think the intangibles are there for Tapit Trice. He just hasn't shown it on the track just yet.
That's true, and they're going to try blinkers. I guess a little bit of desperation from Pletcher here, Dan, to try to get this horse more involved. It's notable because Pletcher had said he didn't want to add blinkers for Forte for the Travers. That's why he put him on for the Jim Dandy. He's got no choice with Tapit Trice. He's got to put him on now. This horse needs something. Boy, I'll tell you, I think it's going to be hard for him to win here. I don't want to be like very, very against this horse because I actually felt like his Belmont was a pretty good performance without a great trip. And that Haskell last time, he didn't run great in there. You can't get this horse over behind rivals around that second turn like this horse did. He got shuffled back a little bit. And once his momentum is stopped at that point, there's just no way that this horse can recover from it. I think he actually had a little bit of an excuse last time. He's mildly interesting in this race as one of the longer prices on the board, Dan. I just couldn't talk myself into him completely.
He's going to be a price. The distance, the extra distance is going to be right up his alley. And I'm certainly with you on his Belmont Stakes because he was all in early and he made a big early wide move into the teeth of that hot pace and he was still hanging around at the end. The talent's there. Let's see if he could put it together with blinkers. Kentucky Derby winner Mage got beaten by National Treasure in the Preakness, although he might have been up against it from a pace standpoint in that race. They skipped the Belmont and the connection said going into this race, the Haskell, he might not be 100% fit. They were using the grade 1 Haskell as a prep for the Travers. They wanted to see a good run. They got it. He looms boldly outside of the winner, Go Rocket Ride, and he finishes a solid second.
He runs well in here. He definitely had a real shot at this race coming off the turn there. Go Rocket Ride is a pretty interesting horse in his own right. I think this was a really strong Haskell, Dan. I think Mage ran a really nice race there off a little bit of a layoff. Maybe it sets him up perfectly for this. His Derby was good. Maybe he gets another fast pace to run into. That certainly helped his run in Kentucky. I hated the Preakness overall, but I didn't hate this horse's performance in that race. Certainly, he's a major player in here as well.
A lot of jockey musical chairs surrounding Mage. Javier Castellano rode Mage. Of course, he rode Arcangelo. He's on Arcangelo for this race. Luis Saez was supposed to take the mount on Mage. He was injured earlier in the week. Now Flavien Prat will be aboard. Here's the Preakness winner, National Treasure. He's got big early speed, and he took advantage of that speed in the Preakness. It was a paceless race. John Velasquez rode a brilliant race, and National Treasure was very game to hold off Blazing Sevens, a runner that didn't come back to distinguish himself in his next start. In the Belmont, he was up on that fast pace. He put away the horses he was battling with, and he got tired late.
Yeah, it wasn't quite good enough in the Belmont Stakes. I actually felt like he ran fine in there. I don't think a mile and a half necessarily suits this horse. That pace was fast, man. 23-3 for the first quarter, 47-3 to the half. This horse was moving right along on that pace, and he was still in the mix in the upper stretch there. He only got tired in the final 3/16 or so. I mean, I didn't think it was a terrible performance, Dan. It sounds crazy to say this, but his major win is the grade 1 Preakness, which is, a classic race for 3-year-olds. And it's kind of the reason why I don't like this horse in this race. I hated the Preakness. I didn't think he ran particularly well in that race, but I like everything else that he's done in his career. And I think he's pretty dangerous on the lead in this race. I could easily use this horse at a price.
While he is 0 for 3 without blinkers, Bob Baffert has a very good record when tinkering. Blinkers on, blinkers off in these big races. Blinkers off for National Treasure in Saturday's Travers. Disarm is the number 6. He doesn't have the resume as some of the others in this race. From Beyer speed figure standpoint, he's just as fast as many of these horses. Coming into this race off 3 consecutive triple-digit Beyer performances and a 4th last time out in the Jim Dandy. The Jim Dandy to me, Mike, was kind of an odd race. It was on a wet track, and other than Forte just getting Saudi Crown late, there wasn't a lot of movement in that race.
Exactly. It was a really tactical running of the Jim Dandy. And I personally felt like Disarm was never in a real position to be effective in that race. Dan, you and I talk about this a lot. When we talk about harness racing, this horse was kind of in the death seat in that race. 3rd on the rail, behind the Saudi Crown, behind Forte, 2 horses to his outside. He was never in a position in that race, to me, to be effective. I thought he was going to finish last when that field came into the stretch. He actually ran at the end of that race once he got to the outside. And I also think I would point out, tell me if you agree with this. His last 2 races, his 2 fastest races are on sloppy sealed racetracks. I'm not convinced this horse is better on a wet track. I think he's better on a fast track. And listen, I've liked him all along. So, for people listening to me talk about it are probably a little bit tired of it. I still think this horse is pretty good. And I liked his Derby. I know that he had no real excuse in there. That was a good performance for a horse who had to rush just to get into that race.
We'll have to see how the weather plays out at Saratoga on Saturday. Expecting maybe some wet weather. Disarm has one on fast. He's one on wet. Steve Asmussen said he's hoping to get a couple of lengths by adding blinkers. Maybe Disarm gets into the race a little bit quicker in the Travers. I like that pace projector for him, sitting third off the speeds. Scotland is the horse with all the upside potential. Here's his game victory in the Curlin last time out. Only his fourth lifetime start, his first race around 2 turns, and Scotland showed good speed from the start. It was a really sharp ride from Junior Alvarado. He puts away Ilmaracolo. He's going to win comfortably. Ilmaracolo came back and he won the Smarty Jones Stakes at Parks earlier this week. And Blazing Sevens, while he didn't run well in the Curlin, had credentials. Grade 1 stakes winner at 2, second in the Preakness.
Yeah, I think your Il Morocco I got a 98 buyer too when he won the other day. So not a bad performance. Listen, I'm not going to knock this horse. He's run well in all 4 of his starts. Did he have all the best of it in that race that we just watched, the Curlin? Yeah, he did. He went right to the front. He took no pressure on the lead. He was much the best in that race, but he ran another relatively fast race, Dan. He's adaptable to different paces too. He doesn't need to be on the lead to be effective. I don't love him in this race, but I'm not going to be shocked when he runs really well.
Should be right in the thick of things when they start sprinting for home at about the 5/16th pole or so. Before we get to our top selections, again, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Click subscribe, comment, tell us who you like in the Travers to win one of 10 Daily Racing Form hats. And of course, that cover of Jenna Antonucci signed by the Belmont Stakes winning trainer herself. Top pick time for the Travers, Mike. You can go with the Belmont winner, the Derby winner, the Preakness winner. You can go with Forte, and we're going to go with Disarm. Now, you're the president of the Disarm fan club, but I have to admit, a lot of things you said about his Jim Dandy made sense to me. I want to give him one more chance at a price, and maybe I'm just howling at the moon.
Yeah, me too. Listen, I guess at some point I'm going to have to divorce myself from this horse, but I still believe in him. I think his Jim Dandy was okay. I would like to get him back on a fast track here, Dan. He's just going to be too big a price for me not to take a shot, and I think he fits right in with these horses. I'm not way against Forte. I kind of think he's the horse to beat. I don't want to bet him at a really short price, and I think he's going to be a really short price in a race where all 6 of his rivals, I think, have a chance to win this race.
I'm expecting Arcangelo to run well. We don't have Mage in there, which means he wins easily and goes on his way to a 3-year-old championship. I'm amazed that we saw this race the exact same way. 6-1-2-5. We're going to go for an upset in the Travers with Disarm. Good luck.